Now on CoastTV News.
A repeat offender DUI bill and Delaware's sober ride program expanding for July 4th. 10-year coastal bay plan, what Maryland is doing to protect their bays. And water worries in Rehoboth Beach, why officials say if you're in a city, you should conserve water.
And it was a hot and humid Saturday. We're going to do it all again tomorrow with plenty of sunshine, heat, humidity, and renewed thunderstorm chances through the afternoon, and even more thunderstorm chances to come in that extended forecast. My full forecast is up in minutes.
This is CoastTV News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Brandon Ferguson. Welcome to CoastTV News at 11. 4th of July is now less than a week away, and however you celebrate, you have to make sure you get home safe. And the Delaware Office of Highway Safety is helping you do just that. They're offering free ride vouchers worth up to $20 for both Lyft and Uber. On the 4th, Delaware residents can claim them starting at 8 a.m. on mysoberrides.com. They can be used between noon on July 4th into 3:30 a.m. on July 5th. Delaware lawmakers want to crack down on repeat drunk drivers. The Delaware House of Representatives unanimously passed House Joint Resolution 4. According to officials, the resolution, sponsored by State Rep. Jeff Holofsky and State Senator Brian Pettyjohn, would establish a driving under the influence prevention task force. The measure comes amid growing concern from the public and lawmakers over individuals arrested multiple times for DUI. House Joint Resolution 4 is now moving to the Senate for consideration. And we're now going to take a live look outside into the Capitol, into Dover, and bring in our first alert meteorologist, Chris Mastrobuono. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Brandon. Well, I'll tell you what, we went from 71 yesterday right back up into the 90s today, and it was a hot week overall, but we had that brief cool down yesterday, and we're at 78 right now in Salisbury, and we are seeing quite muggy conditions out there. 77-degree dew point, that is very uncomfortable. 79 degrees in Rehoboth, very mild at this hour. 80 Bethany Beach. We're at 80 in Georgetown and 81 in Seaford. We've been spared of any shower or thunderstorm activity. We talked about that severe weather off to our west. That has pretty much fallen apart. Could see a stray shower overnight, but I think most of the area is dry. Very muggy, maybe a bit misty at the coast with some fog to start, but another hot and humid day with plenty of sunshine through Lewis, Rehoboth, and Dewey. Temperatures generally in the upper 80s to right around the lower 90s. Again, a few isolated storms are possible as we get into the afternoon. Everyone's not going to see the rain, and we're going to see those heat indices anywhere between 100 to 103 throughout most of the inland areas. And then as we go into Monday, a bit more scattered shower and thunderstorm activity develops through the afternoon. And then we're kind of pinpointing Tuesday afternoon through Tuesday evening with the potential of some scattered severe to strong storms. We'll talk more about that and the full 7-day forecast a little later on in the newscast. Brandon.
Thank you, Chris. Lawmakers came together in Ocean City for another 10 years of improving the coastal bays. On Tuesday, officials from across the state of Maryland signed a 10-year plan that focuses on the health and long-term sustainability of the coastal bays. Kevin Smith, the executive director of the Maryland Coastal Bays program, says improvements have been made, but problems are still hitting the coast.
Recently, one of the challenges that we've had are island loss and marsh loss. We've lost a lot of tidal marsh due to sea level rise and other factors.
According to the Maryland Coastal Bays program, the 4 main things they will be focusing on are to provide healthy waters, protect wildlife, create resilient ecosystems, and to get public engagement. Gun violence continues to be a conversation across the country, and in Maryland, a new website is hoping to shine some light on it. The state recently launched the Firearm Violence Data Dashboard. On there, you can get a look at the real numbers since 2015 and the scope of gun violence across the state. The launch of this website comes alongside a state gun violence prevention plan, which they say is a public health approach that focuses on data-driven solutions through preventative measures, police development, and systemic changes in Maryland. Back in Delaware, lawmakers are taking aim at rising car insurance costs. A new resolution, which has passed the General Assembly, will create an automobile insurance reform task force. That group says they will look at ways to bring down skyrocketing premiums, reform medical payments after accidents, and ultimately help families keep more of their paychecks. Again, that resolution passed both the Senate and the House, and the task force will now get to work in the first state. In Rehoboth Beach, officials are asking people who live in city limits to conserve water in preparation for the 4th of July. City leaders say they saw a drop in water levels around this time last year and hope that this plan will prevent a repeat this year. Officials suggest things like checking your pipes or turning off the faucet while brushing your teeth. They're also asking neighbors to water their plants on alternate days.
We're looking to combat that this year by asking residents to irrigate on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays for even-numbered addresses. And for our odd-number addresses, we're asking that you irrigate on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, please.
Officials also ask that neighbors not water or irrigate on any days when it may rain in Rehoboth Beach. A new police accountability committee has been formed in Rehoboth Beach, and Lewis Police Chiefs Keith Banks and Thomas Spell say the group will meet quarterly to advise on police training and community issues. They say the new committee will help strengthen community ties and boost transparency, and the public is welcome to attend. Milford is laying out plans for growth as city officials acknowledge mounting concerns about overdevelopment. The city's economic development administrator released some information yesterday looking to ease those concerns. According to the administrator, just 1% of the city's total land area has been annexed in the last decade, and it could take up to 36 years to build out all approved housing and open land. More than 3,400 homes have already been approved, but the city says developers must help pay for roads, utilities, and school impacts. And with student enrollment already up 300 in the last decade, a new middle school is opening this fall to help meet demand. Also yesterday, Delaware Senate lawmakers have passed a bill tightening residency rules for school board members across the state. House Bill 82 requires that school board members both claim legal residence and physically live in the district they represent. Under the bill, if a board member is absent from their district more than 25% of the year, they could lose their seat. The legislation now heads to the House for consideration. People are still adapting to Ocean City's new restrictions for beach coverings. It bans tents and prohibits beachgoers from setting up a canopy and then walking away from it before 10 a.m. It also bans any canopies that are larger than 10 by 10 feet. Beach patrols say they had more than 700 interactions with people violating the new rules just in the past week. For now, the town says it's focusing on educating beachgoers on the new rules rather than handing out fines. Now to national news. Mourners honoring the life and legacy of the Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark today. A private funeral was held for the couple who were shot and killed in their home on June 14th in what authorities say was a politically motivated assassination. Their killing shocked the nation. Among those who attended the funeral Saturday, former President Joe Biden and former Vice President Kamala Harris. Jen Sullivan shows us the latest.
A somber Saturday as family, friends, and political colleagues gathered inside the Basilica of St. Mary in Minneapolis to say their final goodbyes to State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark.
Our hearts are deeply saddened at the loss of Melissa and Mark.
The Hortmans were shot and killed in their home June 14th in what authorities say was a targeted attack. Police say the shooter was 57-year-old Vance Belter.
We are the ground zero place for political violence and extremism.
Saturday, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz delivering the eulogy.
I get to remember as a close friend, a mentor, and the most talented legislator I ever known.
Friday, the Hortmans lay in state. Between their caskets, the urn of their beloved golden retriever Gilbert, who was also shot during the attack and later euthanized. Just a few miles away Friday, Belter was in federal court where he faces multiple charges, including murder. Police say he also shot and seriously injured State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette in their home. Authorities called the attacks a politically motivated assassination. Court filings show authorities searched Belter's vehicle and found at least 3 AK-47 assault rifles, a 9mm handgun, as well as a list of names and addresses of other public officials and figures with ties to the abortion movement. Earlier this week, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi responded to concerns about politicians' safety.
And I also want to make sure all members of Congress are safe as well.
I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
Federal murder charges specifically can carry the death penalty if prosecutors decide to seek it. The FBI is warning that a cybercriminal group is now targeting U.S. airlines. In a statement Friday, the FBI said the network called Scattered Spider was behind the airline hacks. The FBI says once the group is inside a victim's network, they proceed to steal sensitive data and will often deploy ransomware. The agency is warning that everyone inside the airline system, including vendors and contractors, could be at risk. While the hacking has not affected airline safety, the FBI says it's working with aviation partners to address the activity. It is a tax that spooked Wall Street and global business leaders. Now it's being dropped from President Donald Trump's wide-ranging budget bill. The Treasury Department and Congress are killing a so-called revenge tax that would raise taxes on foreign investment. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Thursday announced a deal with G7 partners to exclude U.S. companies from some global taxes. That in exchange for the U.S. dropping the Section 899 tax code from the budget package.
Well, if you're making your way to the beach tomorrow afternoon, we're going to see temperatures anywhere between 86 to 91 before a sea breeze kicks in. Look at that water temperature, lower to mid 70s, waves 2 to 3 feet. Watch for a few isolated storms that pop up. We'll track the storms on Futurecast here in minutes.
After the break, we break down all of our top stories from Delmarva this week. We'll be back in just 60 seconds. From a police standoff in Angola to Representative Stell Parker Selby resigning after not appearing once in this whole legislative session. There was a lot going on this week here on the coast. Charlie Sakaitis has a look at our week in review.
Monday, a standoff in the Angola neighborhood left one man dead. It all started in Dagsboro Sunday night after a welfare check for Jason Arnold was called for. He had reportedly threatened to harm himself and his family. At one point on the way to his Angola home, Arnold allegedly shot at officers. Ultimately, Arnold took his own life. An investigation is ongoing. Tuesday, after months of CoastTV coverage and after missing every single vote in the legislative session this year, District 20 Representative Stell Parker Selby officially resigned. Parker Selby suffered a stroke prior to the start of the legislative session this year. A special election is now expected to fill her seat. Wednesday, high heat continued to cook the coast. The heat wave pushed temps up to 100 degrees with a heat index well into the 120s. In fact, all along the coast, records were set both Tuesday and Wednesday. The heat wave lasted 9 full days. Thursday, 2 men were charged in connection to a shooting at a party near the Slaughter Beach Memorial Volunteer Fire Company. 19-year-old Tyree Johnson and 22-year-old Tamir Harmon face multiple felony counts. And Friday, the Blood Bank of Delmarva issued an urgent call for blood donors ahead of the 4th of July weekend. The organization says blood donations are down 38% across Delaware. The need is especially urgent for type O negative and B negative. For your Week in Review, I'm Charlie Sakaitis.
North Dakota tornadoes, dangerous hail touching down.
Well, much calmer here in the tri-state, but much more humid and very hot tomorrow as well. We're going to see lower 90s, heat into the seas triple digits, and watch out for a few afternoon thunderstorms. We'll talk about more thunderstorm chances in the days ahead when I come back with my full forecast. Well, a warm and muggy night out there, a little soupy there in Ocean City, some fog beginning to form, and yeah, those ice cream cones are melting pretty quick tonight with a dew point of 77 degrees, air temperature 78. Spared any shower or thunderstorm activity tonight, but it is very muggy out there. 79 in Rehoboth, we're at 80 in Georgetown, 81 in Seaford, 78 in Salisbury. Look at those dew points, upper 70s, 82-degree dew point in Millsboro, 74-degree dew point in Georgetown. Impressively muggy out there, and you can see the temperatures over the last 5 days. We were at a 101 on Wednesday, 71 yesterday, and we were right back up in the 90s today. We had a high of 91 degrees, and there's that stretch 9 straight days of 90-degree plus temperatures. So pretty dry out there at the moment. Severe weather to our west, that has pretty much all fallen apart. We could see a rogue shower overnight, but pretty much a dry, muggy night as this front slides southward. It's going to stall over Delmarva tomorrow. So there's a few of those spotty showers. I think this model is being a bit aggressive. I don't think we're going to see that much in the way of moisture overnight. Partly cloudy, some patchy fog to start. More sunshine and then more humidity tomorrow. Temperatures inland through the eastern shore anywhere between about 90 to 94. Upper 80s to lower 90s at the coast with those isolated storms. Once again, we're going to see some triple-digit heat indices tomorrow afternoon, feeling like 100 in Seaford, 101 in Selbyville. And then there's that storm outlook tomorrow from the Storm Prediction Center. You could see an isolated severe threat primarily across the eastern shore and western portions of Sussex County. It's a very low threat, but as we go in the afternoon tomorrow, you can see a few of those storms trying to fire up. Brief downpour, some gusty winds. Then as we go into Monday, warm front lifts northward. I think the coverage will be a bit more scattered, but again, a few gusty downpours are possible Monday into early Monday evening, and then we dry out and await a cold front that's going to be pushing through on Tuesday. That is primarily for some more widespread shower and thunderstorm activity. In fact, we could be dealing with some strong to potentially severe storms, so we'll have to kind of monitor how that evolves over the course of the next few days. So Chicotee 90 into Monday, 82 for Assateague. With those afternoon showers and storms, temperatures generally in the mid to upper 80s through Ocean City. As we make our way into Lewis, 90 for our Sunday, and temperatures holding in the lower 90s with those afternoon shower and storm chances. So we're at 93 on Tuesday with that strong cold front rolling through. The good news is the cold front's going to actually drop the humidity a bit as we go into Wednesday and Thursday, and looking very nice for the 4th of July with mostly sunny skies.
Thank you, Chris. Now to numerous tornadoes touching down in south central North Dakota yesterday. These are videos of at least 2 twisters near the Bismarck area. Several tornado warnings were in effect in the area. Large and damaging hail up to the size of a baseball was also reported in parts of central North Dakota. Now moving to severe weather that hit the Atlanta area last night is causing problems for Delta Airlines. The airline must now inspect more than 100 planes before they can fly again after storms brought quarter-inch hail to the region. The affected planes were on the ground during the storm, and a Delta employee said its maintenance teams are quickly working through the backlog. The bad weather led to major delays in and out of Atlanta's airport. Coming up, HIV testing facts, why getting tested now is more important than ever. That's up next on CoastTV News at 11. In your health news tonight, yesterday was National HIV Testing Day, a time to encourage people to learn their status. Early HIV diagnosis is critical, especially with advances in treatments for the disease, but experts say many who have HIV do not know it. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither explains why some at risk don't get tested and talks to an expert about how to change that.
In the U.S., about 1.2 million people have HIV. And about 13% of them don't know it and haven't been tested.
It's important if you're not HIV positive and you are at risk for acquisition of HIV, so that way you can be on medications to prevent HIV infection, or if you're HIV positive, that you can go to your physician and get treatment for the virus.
Dr. Patricia Cotto with Orlando Health cares for patients with HIV. She says it's often the stigma of this disease that stops people from getting tested. But she says self-testing kits make the process discreet. They're available online in most commercial pharmacies or can be requested through a healthcare provider. She says the test is simple and done at home with a sample from the person's mouth. It's then sent off for results.
It disproportionately affects patient populations, especially the African American, the Latino community. And it's difficult sometimes for patients to ask for help or even to consider testing.
That's why Cotto says normalizing and encouraging testing is so important. If a patient is HIV positive, decades of research and breakthroughs allow for treatment to help preserve their immune system for a healthy life.
If you know your status, if you take care of it, it's no different than any other medical condition.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Health officials say people who get a negative HIV test result can also be empowered to protect themselves in the future. After the break here on Coast TV News at 11, as we take a look into Ocean City, we have a final check on your forecast. The weather was perfect for the Salisbury Pride Parade today. The Pride Parade and Festival marched through streets of downtown Salisbury earlier today. This year's theme was Stronger Together. Organizers say it honors the resilience, unity, and spirit of the LGBTQ+ communities across the Eastern Shore and beyond. There were all sorts of fun, like live entertainment, vibrant exhibits, food trucks, and more in Salisbury. Also today, people braved the heat in Lincoln to raise money for equine-assisted psychotherapy. The nonprofit Compassionate Hearts held its fundraiser today. There were raffle baskets, kids' activities, and opportunities to meet donkeys, horses, and cows on site. At Compassionate Hearts and its program for the military, Courageous Hearts licensed therapists work alongside facilitators who say being with animals helps bring comfort and trust to patients who may not be at ease in a traditional setting. And each Friday, you can cheer up with a weekly dose of local good news from Coast TV. It's full of features, cool things to do each weekend, and more. You can sign up now for our Feel Good Friday newsletter at coasttv.com/signup.
And we have a warm and muggy night ahead of us here on Delmarva. Ocean City coming in at 77 degrees. Watch for some patchy fog to develop in some areas through the overnight. And as we push along here in summer, we are just 6 days away from the 4th of July. And there you go, Brandon, 68 days away from the official start of Sunday Night Football there on NBC, Thursday night game there. Well, pool cast tomorrow, whether you're at the pool or the beach, hot, humid. We are watching for the threat of a few isolated thunderstorms to develop. Some of those could provide some drenching downpours as well as some gusty winds. So you hear some thunder, that's your cue to go indoors. Get your forecast anytime by dialing the First Alert Weather phone, sponsored by Brockstead Mundalis Federico. Now your 10-day forecast shows the shower and storm threat continuing at least through Tuesday. More scattered, a bit more widespread, I think, Monday afternoon. And then we watch a cold front come through Tuesday afternoon through Tuesday night. That could bring a round of some potential strong to severe storms. So we'll have to continue to monitor that closely. And then it gets really nice midweek. Lower humidity briefly, but temperatures kind of hovering right around that 90-degree mark right through the 4th of July weekend.
Thank you, Chris. 68 days, you say. We'll see what my Packers and your Eagles can do this year. Thank you for joining us for Coast TV News at 11. For more news and local weather, download our Coast TV News app. Saturday Night Live starts right now. Have a great night.